Tune in weekly and listen to the Collateral Damage podcast, where Michael Wilson and Maureen Cavanaugh host a variety of special guests to discuss topics and available services that will help you learn about the impact that substance use has on our lives, our families, and on our communities nationwide. Episodes and listening information can be found at www.cdpodcast.com. You can also search for Collateral Damage Podcast on your favorite listening platforms or watch previous and future episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Collateral Damage. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm here with my co-host, Maureen Cavanaugh.
Hello there, Michael.
Hi. And we are in our new studio, which we're trying out for Collateral Damage. You like it?
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Yep. And so today we have a special guest, Bonnie Peterson from up in York, Maine. And it says here that you are an EFT Tapping Practitioner, which I'm dying to hear about, and I know our listeners are as well. And so thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yep,
Thank you.
And so you and Maureen know each other?
We do.
You do? Okay.
We do, yeah.
And so she probably knows more about you than I do, and our listeners. But I was wondering, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this, and then maybe you can help us understand what it is exactly that you do.
Sure. So let's get into it. So I know it's a lot because a lot has happened in my life and to get me to where I am today, and it's quite a journey. So it's okay to tell my story?
It is,
yeah,
yes.
Please do.
Okay. Love to hear it.
Okay, because it's what got me here today. So, and I'll keep it brief, of course. I'm not going to go into every detail, but you guys can read in between the lines. Mm-hmm. So I am the oldest of three sisters, two brothers. Both parents are addicts. Mm-hmm. So I was brought up right away in chaos and confusion. My dad was in and out of jail. My mom, had to take a step back. She couldn't quite mother. She had to take care of her own stuff. So she did not raise me. My brother and I, my brother's 2 years younger than me. He's in recovery right now. And he, so he's doing well. He's doing well right now, which is awesome. Cause I actually thought I was going to lose him. I thought I was going to lose him, at one point. So that's a whole nother story. But, anyway, him and I were in a foster home. When he was just a baby. He was under one. We're only 2 years apart. And so we ended up in a foster home for a few years, and that was part of our experience. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So my father, he was in jail for about, the time it kind of eludes you. Things just happen and it's chaos, It's confusion. But he did end up getting sober in jail. He realized that he was an alcoholic. Anytime he would drink, he would black out, and anyone in his path, he would cause, chaos and craziness. And so he realized once he picked up the big book in jail that he was an alcoholic. So he came out. At this time, he had 4 children, my little sisters, Emily and Tony. So they were a part of this too as well. And he ended up going to court and getting custody of all 4 of his children.
Wow.
So quite a warrior my father was. And that's one thing that he taught me was, he just showed up to life with all of his addiction, his battles, his wounds, everything. He just showed up. And so to get to see this side of addiction, to get to see the rawness of it, I got to see my father in his addiction, out of his addiction, fighting for his addiction, talking about it, and he was always very honest about it. So I always asked him questions. He was always honest. And so that's how I got really the front seat of this addiction. And, not only that, so my father raised us and he did really well for a lot of years. Did he
get sober and stay sober when he left jail? Was that where he found his recovery?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that's huge.
He did. He really did. And it's he loved his kids. We were his everything. And he just did the best that he could, and he showed up for us. And it wasn't pretty all the time, and he wasn't perfect, but he just showed up as him, and he was honest about that. And so with his honesty and with his rawness and his integrity, he was a Marine, he was a proud veteran, and he just, he just showed up the way that he was and the way he knew how,
That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
Yeah, he really just instilled so much into me, and I don't even think there's words to tell you, but I show up here today with my ancestors and everything I went through and everything I had to battle to overcome it and to get where I am today, to help lead other people out of it. And it's like, I see it from every angle. I mean, you know, my father stayed sober up until about the time I went to college. And what happened was he had neck surgery. So here comes the neck surgery. This was probably around 2000, year 2000-ish. And he, of course, he was prescribed opiates, you know, and that took him on another wild ride. Anyway, so, you know, actually in 2016, my father lost his battle. He took a combination of fentanyl and cocaine, and he had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So before that, though, he was actually battling. He was fighting hard back. He was fighting so hard. He got sober for a good 2 years before he passed away. He was obviously, you know, it always creeps back in, you know, and he wasn't one to go get help and to be in these, be a part of, you know, groups and such. You know, he was very much a loner, and he had a lot of strength within him. But, you know, at this time, he was dating this woman who was an alcoholic. He was trying to help her, and so he was actually putting himself at risk. You know, and putting himself in these situations that he shouldn't have been in. So anyway, he goes out one night and he goes and uses with his girlfriend, and he has a heart attack and he dies.
That's awful.
Ultimately from addiction. He'll make it clear though when he comes through spirit that he did not overdose. He'll tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I've had someone say that he didn't overdose. I'm like, I know, but he had a heart attack due to drugs. You know. Anyway, so. Backtrack. Okay, so let's just backtrack. I'm going to try to like paint a picture for you. So, you know, now I'm married. This is 2008. I'm married. I have a beautiful family. I have a daughter and a son. Now they're 16 and 11. I'm married. I've been married now about 11 years. I've now healed from my childhood trauma and my own stuff, right? Using EFT tapping and energy healing and really doing inner work. So here I am now, like this is the result that you get. But so now I'm early in my marriage. My emotions are all over the place. I'm not quite sure like what's happening. I really should be happy. I have kids. I have an awesome husband. His family's amazing. I have support. But I have this like inner battle going on. So I'm on antidepressants. I was on antidepressants for over 8 years. And I, you know, through those 8 years, you know, I always doing that self-check-in, right? So I'm always checking in. And I just didn't know how to get out of my own shit. You know, I just didn't, excuse me, sorry.
Okay.
All right, I was going to come out at some point, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Feel free, please, feel free.
But anyway, it's the realness coming out. But, you know, it's like, I was like, all right, I'm not feeling good. There's something else that I need to do. There's something I'm not doing that I need to do. And like, of course, the antidepressants helped a lot. They helped me to get a grip, to function, right? And to be a mom and to show up. But there was just like, there was more, and I knew it. So I ended up meeting this woman. Her name is Angel Amy in Danvers, and I met her by accident. And so this is how the universe works. Like the universe will send these people to you, and you know, when you're ready. So it's just like perfect timing for me. And I met her at a salon I was working at the time, because I'm also a cosmetologist. I wear a lot of hats, but at the time I was doing hair, and she came in, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's Angel Amy. She is a medium. She's a psychic. She does EFT tapping. She does Reiki." And I was like, all right. So I knew mediumship. It's one of those things that I experienced as a kid. And I was always very spiritual and open, you know, and I said, but what's EFT tapping and Reiki? And so that just planted a seed for me.
Now, do those often come together?
Yes.
They're often done together, the EFT and the Reiki?
Not necessarily together. In my coaching packages, what I do is I like to, so because I'm a Reiki Master Teacher, I have, so I can send healing from a distance. So I do a lot of stuff online, but then at the end of the coaching session and after we do tapping, I actually send Reiki to people to just clear out anything that's just like hanging around, and just to balance their energy and let them feel good in their body, you know, just to complete it all. But sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I apologize. You met Amy.
Yeah, so Angel Amy, so here's what I did. I showed up broken, right? I showed up just so battered and, and in my younger years, like, I'm remarried. My ex-husband is, I have an ex-husband. He's in recovery, if you will. I mean, so I was starting to follow those patterns of my parents. I was starting to go in that direction. I was like, this, once I had my son, I was like, oh no, this is, I valued and loved him more than myself, but I knew that I had to show up for this little boy, and I wasn't going to let him live the same life I lived. So I had to figure it out, and anyway, I show up at Angel Amy's office, and she guided me in such a way that she allowed me to just be who I was without judgment, right? That's a huge part of healing. You have to be with someone that is just there for you. They can hold space for you. They're not judging you. They're guiding you with love, and they just allow you to go through your journey. So she was there, and I'm talking about my story, and I come in with all this crazy energy, and I'm like, I'm just depressed. I'm this, I'm that, and she pulled a lot out of me, because I had a really solid wall up. I mean, I didn't let too many people in and tell them that, I had a lot of pride and stuff like my father, right? And I was also in the military. I'm also a United States Marine as well. So
oh, wow.
It's not very easy to drop your pride, right? So I went in and she did Reiki with me. And the first time I ever did Reiki, it was like the most amazing experience I could possibly have at that time, because before I saw her, I had a lot of obviously anxiety and depression, but there was also physical symptoms happening where my stomach was like always hurting me. This happened for a good year. My stomach hurts. I would tell my husband, my stomach hurts. I don't know what's going on. But intuitively, I knew there was something else, right? And I just didn't know. I had no clue. And when she ever went over to my stomach area, she said, Bonnie, she goes, I released more fear out of your stomach than I've seen in anybody. So, I leave her office, all of these things are just like, she planted all these seeds. I'm feeling amazing in my body. At this time, I actually started working for Danvers Detox. I'm there as a recovery specialist. I'm there just to love people, right? At this time, I know no boundaries. I don't know that I'm being triggered. I just want to love everybody. And you go in with a good heart, but you have to realize that, like, if you don't do the inner healing, that you can take on too much and get overwhelmed really quickly, right? So that's one thing that I learned along the way there.
And there's a lot of stuff that you could take on from other people at a detox. That's for sure.
Exactly, yeah, because the energy there is very, not any fault of theirs, but their energy is just really low. They went through a lot of things. Their energy is low. They're at a time of their life where, they just have a lot going on. So I just learned so much along the way, as far as my own energy, how I felt around other people and all that. But so, I go have that Reiki session. I literally I get to Danvers Detox. Actually, I think I worked the same day. I go there and I'm like taking these really deep breaths. It was like I was like this clear channel. I finally felt so good in my body, and I was like, this is insane. I go, my whole life, everyone's been using drugs. And I go, how is it possible for me to feel this good in my body? Like, my lower back used to go out every month. My stomach was killing me. I started getting physical symptoms now this all stems from our emotions, right?
Yeah.
So everything is energy, as we know, and everything holds a vibration. So anything, like any negative energy that we have experienced from our childhood, we store it in our body, in our physical bodies, right? And if we don't clear them, they will cause physical illness. This is where illness comes from. So at the time, I didn't know all that. All I know is I feel amazing in my body. And I'm like, wow, I have to tell everybody about this. I'm telling everyone in detox, you got to go get energy healing. You have to go do this, and I'm like telling them to do visualizations. And these are all things I just learned. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good in my body. And, and just, I wanted them all to know, because that's ultimately what we're all searching for. We're all searching for peace. We're all searching for love. We're looking for connection, and it's like, and we know, like, we're suffering, but we just don't know how to do it. We don't know how to, like, get ourselves out of this crap that we're in, right? So
were people actually, like, taking the advice or direction? Like, did you get anybody to go do this stuff, or?
I don't know, because I was in the detox, and you know how that goes. Like,
Yeah, you
they're
lose
in, they're
track of
out,
them.
they're in, they're out, they're in,
Yeah.
they're out. I see them every 2 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm glad you're back. But
Can't really follow up with them at that level of care. So
you can't follow up with them, unfortunately. But I had many of them reach out and say, thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Like, you're the only one that talks to me. I'm like, well, I get in trouble for talking, but that's okay. Like, I'll do whatever I have to help you. So just let's talk. So yeah, I would show up my bubbly self, and I would just spread love, because that's all I could give at the time, and whatever I could learn, I would tell them, and I would just like encourage them to go further, and please go to further treatment. Some of them didn't even know what further treatment was. I'm like, oh God, we gotta just go further, go. But anyway, so it was quite the experience. And from there, because I really wanted to figure out addiction. So, I early on in my life, I lost 3 of my aunts, I lost 2 uncles, I lost,
wow.
Most recently, my little brother died from endocarditis 2 years ago, and my dad died 3 years ago.
That's a loss.
Yeah, and I have people in my life right now still struggling with addiction. I have my mother, I have my little brother Tommy, who him and I went to the foster home together, right? So him and I like connected at the hip there, and I have a little sister that's still struggling, and she lost her kids to the system, and she's battling. I have little cousins that are still using. I'm like, oh my God, people like, just like, I don't, it's such a hard thing. It's
so
hard.
much addiction.
It's all over the place in my life. So obviously this is my purpose. This is my passion, and I had to figure it out. So I worked in every situation you could in the recovery world. Like, I went to Danvers Detox. I wanted to know more. I ended up working for North Suffolk. I became a recovery coach. Like, I wanted to know more. I'm like, how do I help people? What am I doing, right? And I realized, and I worked for Bridgewell, and I worked for the on-call at the ER at the Union Hospital, and I worked with Capic on the streets with the homeless people, and we set up a shower unit, and we showered them outside. Like, I wanted to know every angle of everything, because that's who I am. I want to figure it out. And with my own healing journey, like, it took me 2 years using EFT tapping and Reiki and energy healing to pull myself out. Like, after doing my healing, I am totally off my antidepressants for over 2 years now.
Wow, that's huge.
I'm the most happy I've ever been. I feel really good in my body. My body is great. I'm healthy. It's like, my message is like, we can heal from these emotions, and these emotions aren't necessarily our fault, and like, my father did the best he could. Did he damage the shit out of me? Yes. Did I have a lot of fear? Did I have a lot of, lack? We were poor, things like that. So like, as a child, we just absorb and see and take on everything. And then we carry that into our adulthood, right? And so here we are showing up as adults. We're grown people, and we're just like, what the heck? Like, I'm a hot mess.
So you said you spent 2 years doing the tapping and the Reiki, is that right?
Yes. So what I did, it's called the personal peace procedure. And I literally had to go from the very earliest memory of the crappiest memory that I could possibly think of, right? So the very first crappy memory, you write it down, and you go through the whole list. And some of us have a really pretty big list. But as you tap on each thing, right? So you tap on each thing, and you check in with yourself. All right, so I remember this one event. I remember fear. Then you gauge it. Is it a 0 to a 10? 10 being the worst. Well, it was a 10, right? So my memory in my head was a 10. And you literally start to tap on it. And tapping is it's emotional freedom technique. It frees you from your emotions. And it's tapping on meridian points on your body, because we're all energy, right? There's an energetic system here. And so all it basically is tapping on these meridian points and talking about the issue at hand. And then you're going to go through all these points. So Maureen tapped with me. She knows it's pretty basic.
It's you tapping on yourself, correct? So
it's you tapping on yourself.
Yeah, it's like a self-soothing technique that you can do even when nobody else is around, right?
And they're actually acupressure points, right?
They're they're acupressure points. So it's like acupuncture, but without the needles. So it's a self-help tool. So this is why it's so imperative that I get it out to the recovery world, because even if the people that are working around these people have the tool, they can at least have that extra tool with them. Because here's the thing, from experience, I only speak from experience. I had this moment after I got off my antidepressants that stuff started to come out. It started to bubble up. because I suppressed it, or it was just dormant, right? Because that's what antidepressants do. So I come off my medicine, and all of a sudden something about going up to Maine with my husband made me feel unsafe, because unsafe is part of my story as a child. Everything in my life as a child was unpredictable and unsafe. So I'm in the middle of the woods, we're driving, we're going to do a bog walk, I have my 2 dogs in the car, and wouldn't you think like you'd be like so happy and excited? No, my body remembered something that I didn't. Because mentally I'm like, I know I'm safe, but my body is like, oh crap, what is this? So immediately I go, honey, I don't know. I look over at my husband, I go, I don't know what's going on, but I feel really like I'm gonna jump out of my skin. So I almost like an anxiety attack. So he knows that I've been tapping. He's like, you're safe. But I start to tap, right? I'm like, when I start tapping, and it went right away. It went away like immediately. So
that's a pretty effective tool. It's
so effective, and it's literally like scientifically proven. So you can look it all up.
So I thought it was really, I thought this was interesting when we did it, and then I went this a couple weeks ago to a 3-day training on trauma with Bessel Vanderbilt. I mess his name up. Who is like the man for trauma. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Okay. So this is like the book that everybody refers to when they're dealing with trauma. He runs, I can't remember the name of it, in Cambridge. Is it the Justice Resource Institute? JRI. Sure. It's like this huge. He's it. You know what I mean? And he was during the class. He said that he teaches everybody tapping before he starts digging up the trauma.
Wow.
Because that's how much he believes in it.
So basically giving them the tool to deal with the stuff he's about to bring up, right? I mean, that would be a fantastic tool if it was, applied throughout treatment.
Yeah, I just thought this was
think of everything that comes up during the first 30 days of treatment when you're all of a sudden sober again and have to face all of the stuff that's been happening, all the wreckage of your addiction, right?
Or even cravings, I was thinking, you know what I mean? Because I just thought, wow. I mean, you read about things, but when somebody like that, who's this is a man of science. This is not anybody that does anything just, and he was absolutely, this is the first thing he teaches anybody. Talked about a lot about energy work and a lot about yoga and about being back in your body. This was like another way to do that when, you're, like you were saying, like you're safe, you're here right now, you're fine. And I just thought that was amazing. That is. Because I had heard about this, and then, like you said, you showed me a little bit, and I thought it was interesting. But when you have people like that, like the talking about it, I think that you're absolutely right. It's something that people need to know about.
Yes, and that's
it may not be for everybody, right? It may not be for everybody, but it's definitely a tool. And if somebody like that is using it, I think that that gives it a lot of
credibility.
Thank you.
Right.
I mean, my only experience with the Reiki is I went out to Sierra Tucson and did a professional weekend out there, and they brought in these samples of everything that they were doing. They were talking about our Chinese zodiac signs, and they were talking about they did Reiki, and I personally, I don't know if I was closed to it. I just didn't know what I was looking for, what kind of experience I was getting. Plus it was a professional weekend, so I wasn't exactly like open. But it definitely seemed like a useful tool to have in a program like that, because even if you've got 60 clients or patients and 10 of them can benefit from that, that's 10 people that will have tools. So.
Even one,
exactly, even one.
So and I know you guys know this, but in early recovery, because I witnessed it firsthand, of course, like at Danvers Treatment Center. I mean, these people are so anxious, and they're jumping out of the skin. They're ready just to go use, and so what's going to keep them there, And it's like, well, they're being triggered left and right, and it's just like a lot of them just grabbed their bags and ran, and it's like, I wish there was something you could say or do, but. And then also working for North Suffolk, I worked for the Meridian House for a little while, and there were some people, and they're walking around. Of course, they have a lot of stuff. They're in early recovery. A lot of stuff starts to come up. They're starting to realize things. They're going through some really, really trying times in their life, and and it just knowing EFT, like they're desperate. I had this one guy who was like over 6 feet. He was this real big guy, and he was pacing the hallways, and I go, you all right, buddy? He just like came in. He was new, and I was like, how you doing? He's like, I'm jumping out of my skin. I'm like, I can see that. I'm like, all right, so I have this tool, and it's called EFT Tapping, and I explained it to him. I said, would you be interested? He goes, I'll do anything. Because he was literally ready to, like, and he couldn't leave because, he had to, he would end up in jail, this whole thing. So he's like, didn't know what to do. And I taught him tapping. So from that point on, like every time I saw him, he was smiling. He was thinking about his future. He said, I'm gonna, he's like, and everyone was obviously lovingly making fun of him because he'd be tapping as he walked down the hallways. But like, just to see him smile, to see him, this big guy that's been, his story was huge. I mean, he was stabbed up, almost dead a bunch of times, and all these things happened to this poor guy. And I said, you know what, you don't ever have to go back there. Just start from here and go forward. And, and you can release you can like heal yourself from this slowly. Take your time, honor yourself, but just keep going, right? And so every time I saw him, this big guy, like so happy. And I was like, this has to be in the recovery field, period. It just has to be.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I mean, every tool helps. Like if you're talking about just being able to deal with the cravings, I mean, we always talk about how, when you're struggling with substance abuse, I mean, substances aren't the problem. They're the solution to the problem, and so they're the only solution we have at the time. And then when we get sober, being sober without another solution sucks. It's horrible. It feels terrible. Exactly. Like life is full of pain that we don't know how to deal with. And so, every tool, no matter what it is, even if it's, added to other things, could be beneficial. Right. Are these techniques being applied in any programs that you're aware of?
No, not that I know of. I've been trying to get it in there, but no one has the money to give. No one has insurance doesn't cover it. So it's like weird. Right. And then it's like, well, everyone's so busy in the recovery world that they're just doing their thing, right? And it's like, I try to reach out to these people because I networked for so many years. I know like a good amount of people. And I said, well, I'll even travel to your sober homes and I'll do this and I'll do that. And it's like, I don't know where to go because I just know, like, I know first of all, I know like in early recovery, that's like the thin ice that they're on. I know how imperative it is to grab them and get a hold of them then, because obviously we want to save lives, right? We don't want people to go out there and die, of course, right? That's my mission, is to help people to have this tool so that they can, just keep going forward instead of that early recovery is just, that's when they're the most vulnerable, the most, and it's like, it's a scary time. I mean, I worry about people all the time, and I'm like, I know like they're on thin ice. I know all it takes is one negative thought, and how can we at least give them their power back too? Like having this tool gives them their power back in a sense. It gives them something they can do for themselves,
Well, it's all about self-soothing. I mean, that's what the substance abuse is. It's a self-soothing technique. So, I mean, if you can't replace it with another self-soothing technique, then, you're at the mercy of, well, I have to be, I've got to go see my therapist, or I've got to take my medication. But when you can, adopt these new self-soothing techniques that you can do in the moment, like when you were walking around with your husband and, you're like, I'm freaking out, but then you're able to do something right there. It's not, I'm freaking out, I need to call somebody, or I need to go someplace.
Or I need to take a pill.
Or I need to take a pill. Exactly. I can do this. Just give me a second. Let me do this thing. And you can pull yourself out of that's empowering. Of course.
Right. Exactly. It's amazing. And then another thing I realized, right, because I said I was binge drinking for a little while. So when I checked back in with myself as I was trying to relax, right, we to give ourselves those excuses, I have to relax, but it was really my coping for my emotions that were happening before I actually healed. And once I healed, I realized that I no longer crave alcohol. Like I don't care to drink at all. And so that's another thing is I'm trying to help people it's like relapse prevention. And, it's just amazing. There's so much that it's just amazing. It literally can free you from everything and give you a fresh new start if you're willing to put in the work. Like I did the personal peace procedure. It took me over 2 years to do. It was a journey. It's not something you can just rush through. And but each time you do it, you're healing and you're moving forward, and you're again empowerment. And
Bonnie, do you know how it works? What's like? I know you're tapping on acupuncture points or acupressure points. So how exactly is that? What does it do? Do you know?
So I have some information here, actually. Let me see if I can pull something up real quick. I wish I could find the words right now, but let me just see if I can pull something up real quick for you.
I mean, I'm assuming if it's like Reiki, it just moves the energy around, right?
Exactly. So here's basically what it is. Okay. So every emotion has an energetic charge behind it, right? So whether it be negative or positive, there's a vibration that goes into it. So anything negative we store in our body, right? Any negative everything carries like this vibration. And so what happens is like our emotions stay stuck in our system. So EFT tapping is helping you to release that energy from your body, to bring your body back into balance, back into homeostasis, back into where it's supposed to be. So then your body can actually heal itself. So it's, it's really just releasing yourself from these things, whether that be like negative thought patterns, that be fear, guilt, grief, embarrassment, or sadness, or like all of us we're emotional beings. And what we do is we actually take these things on and we claim them as our truth. And that's even with like illnesses. People say, oh, I have this, and they claim it. And so I'm a big believer in like, don't claim it. I question everything. I question everything. Like people say, oh, this is hereditary. I'm like, but is it? Like I really want to know, like it's all about the energy. And the more that we clear out, the more work we do. We never have to look at it again. It's never going to trigger us, and it never will have the hold on us again. Like I've literally cleared everything, and now I can move on into who I'm supposed to be. And, without all that baggage and all that heaviness and depression and anxiety and all that stuff. So it's a beautiful thing. And I only speak from my experience, and I know how profound it is. And, I told you I went to Angel Amy in Danvers, and she also has a very similar story to me. And she healed herself using EFT tapping, doing the personal peace procedure, and so this is something that's been, Gary Craig, he's the one who developed EFT tapping. He simplified it so it's easy for everyone to use. At one point, it was like this long, drawn-out process. It's literally streamlined. It's very easy to use. It's, it's easy to understand. But if anyone wants... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and the EFT it's emotional freedom technique. Is that what it is? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. It literally frees you from whatever emotion that's going on. So, for instance, like even when I tapped with Maureen at the time, was just like, how we get into those places where just like our energy is like, like I have so much going on, and I'm like, I'm kind of in my head. I'm not really sure I'm going. So this is what we do. We're human, right? We have stuff going on and things arise. Things come up. So once you do a couple of rounds of EFT, it literally like deflates your energy and allows you to think clearly and make good decisions. Like it's clearing you from it, so you can finally breathe and be like, all right, I got this. I got this. It's it's not as like so it literally like it just deflates the charge behind the emotion, allows you to handle life more effectively. Instead of being in that oh crap moment and then making bad decisions left and right, and like I don't know how I got here. Well, we're acting on our emotions. People make decisions based on fear, based on lack, based on all these crappy things, right?
Well, who doesn't want to be emotionally free?
Right. I was determined because I suffered so bad in my own body. Like I knew, and I saw everyone around me suffering. All I saw was suffering. And I said, there's got to be more to this, or else I'm out of here.
Yep.
Right.
It's really interesting. Because I've done Reiki, and I went to acupuncture for, I don't know, probably about 1.5 years steadily, because I had 4 herniated discs in my back and a compression fracture. I mean, and so these are things you can actually see.
Yeah.
And you can't say, well, it's in your head and now it's better and there's no proof either way. I mean, you can actually, they did MRIs, you can see they wanted to operate. And before I was operated on, I said, let me just try one more thing. And I started to try the acupuncture, and it didn't happen overnight, but over the course of it was, I would say, steadily for about 1 year, and then on and off for another year. And that was about 10 years ago, about 15 years ago. And my back has never gone out again. Yeah. And I spent this was from a car accident. So I spent years with all that. So I really, really believe in the energy work.
Well, have you, and I mean, obviously, acupuncture definitely helps. I think they used to use it in a lot of the detox protocols that, they would mix it into that. There's a device that's coming out now. Have you heard of the Bridge?
I've heard about it. I don't know enough about it to talk about it.
It's an electric device. It's a stimulating device they put on your ear, and it just connects to pressure points in your ear, and it provides these electric stimuli or vibrations in your ear.
Right.
And I've watched videos of people that just hitting those pressure points with that vibration or that electric stimulus relieves the withdrawal symptoms almost immediately.
Right.
I watch videos. Like I have to question, like you do. I'm like, is that real? Because I felt withdrawals, and I know how significant they are. And for it to just be gone without a medication, it was crazy. But they're just hitting those pressure points in the ears, and connecting these electric stimulus to it.
I have a girl right now that's in Gosnold, and they're using
they're using the
acupuncture
bridge?
there. They're using acupuncture there.
Yeah.
And
I think they do the same thing with the ears.
Maybe.
That there's a spot there that they're really trying to connect with, which I assume has to do with the body's energy, and they might be connected. So
she was withdrawn from Suboxone, and she sounded awful good. So maybe that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I happen to know that the withdrawal from Suboxone is not easy. So that's good that she's able to get that support. So
yeah. So I mean, each you know, EFT. This is just the basics that I'm talking to you about, but there's more to it, obviously, and but each point that you tap on is associated and connected to one of your major organs, right? And so that we store energy in different parts of our body. So if you think about the gallbladder, right, actually fear is what gets stored in the gallbladder. So if you see people getting their gallbladders out, there's an emotion that's attached to that. So I just encourage people to keep doing their own inner, like, just keep paying attention to yourself. You know, there's always an emotion behind a physical ailment usually. And of course, if you get into a car accident, it's different. But, you know, when you go through these traumas and things, like, be gentle with yourself, allow yourself to feel these emotions, let them pass, let them be what they got to be, cry it out, yell it out, whatever you got to do, right? But don't self-harm and don't hurt yourself. Right. Be positive. Like, and that's the thing, like, I really think you hit the nail on the head with the empowerment piece, because, you know, they're going out and they're going to doctors, they're going to get their pills, they're going to get this, they're going to get that, but where are the tools for them to take on and take action in their own life? And so empowering them, giving them tools, giving them these different things. And I also think, obviously, there's a lot to addiction. There's not one way to you know, to tackle addiction, as we know, or else we would have done it by now. But it's each and every person has their own truth and their own way and their own path. And I think if everyone just taps in, they, you know, tap into what you need and start to just follow the signs, follow your body, follow your just knowing. People know we have intuition. Like, you know what you need. Like, start to take those action steps and get where you need to get to without judgment, you know, without battle, like beating yourself up over it. Like, oh, I got to be on Suboxone. Well, if that's what you feel like is best for you, then you go ahead and do that. You know, like, I was on antidepressants and I actually felt terrible about doing it because I felt like I was weak. I felt like I wasn't strong enough to overcome this, right? But then I also knew that I was not strong enough to overcome it alone, and I needed that help. So you have to
kind of bridge the gap. You needed to get something to help you get over that hump.
Exactly. So whatever it is for you, just honor that path, honor it. There's no, all these outside judgments, like, you got to just push that aside and come back in and just say, all right, what do I need? Right. And let me just focus on me, you know, So
now, do you have a practice?
I do. Yes. Yep.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, or?
So yes. So I, you know, I'm a recovery coach and all that stuff. So I actually just opened a place up in York, Maine. Right now I'm working solely online. I get a lot of people online. Wow. So I do Zoom calls just like this, and I meet them right where they're at, and I just give them, I can check in with people. Like, I know where they're at because I've studied people long enough to know in myself that I can see exactly where they're at, and I try to just go with their energy and see where I want to take this, right? I'm not going to there's no, like, set way, right? Again, every person is different. Everybody receives things differently. Everyone, you know, it's really like, I tap into them, I see where they're at, and I just gently guide them along. And, you know, and when people want it, like, for me, when I showed up to my coach's office, I said, I'll do whatever it takes so I can, like, feel better in my body. And I literally, you know, had to show up for myself. I had to pay the money. I had to take the 2 years on and off and be consistent with it. I had to love myself through it, and I had to have faith. And that's what I tell people that want to work with me, like, show up for yourself. There's no excuses. We can't make excuses anymore. You're worthy. You're loved. Like, let's pull yourself out of this. And so I just meet everybody where they're at, and I gently guide them along, and I tell them everything that I know, everything I went through. This is how, you know, and allow them to also do what's best for them. You know, it's not my way or the highway. It's like, this is what I did. Take what resonates and leave the rest. You know, that's what we all should be doing.
Now, you know? if our listeners, because it sounds like you can work with anybody anywhere, even though you're up in York. So if our listeners, whether it's, you know, a person in recovery or a family member or just somebody who's struggling and would like to contact you about that, how could they do that?
Yep. So my website is fireflyspirit.com, and my email is Bonnie Peterson at fireflyspirit.com. All my information and all my stories and everything about me is on my website. Okay. So that's a great way to start. You can start there, or I'm on Facebook as well, and I'm Firefly Spirit Coaching and Healing, and so I have a Facebook business page that I do a lot of lives on, and I talk about certain different things and energy, and I'm trying to get people motivated to just pull themselves out of it, because I'm so, like, first of all, like, it's just a big old lie, like all these things that was packed into us, and we can undo it and really live in the flow of life and really live abundantly and happily and it with peace in our body. And like, so if I can do it, you can do it. And so like, let's get to it. I just want to just like, come on, people, we got this. So yeah.
I love it.
I'm excited to introduce this to the families that I work with, because they've had a lot of trauma. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Yep.
It's amazing. It literally is so amazing. And, it's like, you feel the effects immediately in your body, you feel it, but also then your perception and everything changes. The way that you think changes. Mm-hmm. You start to feel more peaceful. You can handle life easily. Like, there's so many things that come with EFT tapping. It's not just this physical, it's mental and emotional, and it's just a beautiful thing. It's an amazing tool. And I'm actually trying to get my sister Emily, who works with kids, in a school. And I said, it's really amazing for kids, because kids also need these tools. So EFT should be known. It's an amazing tool. Everyone should know it. And I'm actually surprised that not everyone knows about it yet. I'm like, wow, this has to get out there.
It's the first time I heard about it. Mm. Well, let me ask you a question. Maybe you can do this, maybe you can't, but I feel like I figured I'd ask, because I know our listeners, tend to, listen to our show and try to understand the services that are available and try things out for themselves. Is there, I know some people are listening to this by audio in their car or at the gym, or they're watching this video on YouTube, but is there an EFT tapping that maybe somebody could try? Is there something that somebody could try, just as a beginner, somebody who doesn't really know anything about it, if they're having a difficult day, or if they're just listening right now and they're kind of stressed out, is there something like a simple tapping technique that they could try that you could explain to us that might inspire them to go learn more about it?
Well, I always tell people, like, if you want to learn tapping, you can go on YouTube. There's a million different, there's a lot of really good videos actually out there that teach you the basics. And literally, it's whatever emotion is coming up through you. You can go on YouTube and say EFT tapping for this, EFT tapping for that. So there's a lot out there actually. And there are very simple techniques. I mean, there's, when I first started learning EFT tapping, the one thing I brought to Danvers Treatment Center was tap on these 2 points. It's about 4 inches below your collarbone. I use 2 hands, and I tap in this little soft spot. You'll feel it here. And I tap and I say, I feel the anxiety leaving my body now, right? I feel the anxiety leaving my body now. And you want to take a deep breath, and you just want to let it all go. And you just keep tapping right in the spot. I feel the anxiety leaving my body now. And this will literally change people's, like, you go from like, to, whew. So that's one, but so
about 4 inches down from the collarbone, there's a little soft spot, and you just kind of tap that. And
you can tap, or you can rub, you can just rub. And you know what the amazing thing about this is, once you get into it and you start to do this work, you can literally use your own mind, and you can actually just envision yourself tapping, and your body will relax.
Oh, wow.
So it's that powerful. It really is. And I'm fired up over it. And I just got certified not long ago. I took 2 years myself to use this tool. I know how profound it is. I'm no expert in it. All I know is that it's an amazing tool. It has to be out there, and I just needed to tell the world.
Well, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you telling us, because I mean, as I said, I'm just learning about this. So.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, we always ask a question of our guests, and I'll ask you this question. Do you want to ask?
No, you do it so well.
So, this is, the show is Collateral Damage, and so we're constantly talking about the impact that this has on our community and our families and stuff like that. But I'm curious to know if there was one thing that you could change about the way that we're dealing with or addressing or talking about addiction. What would that be?
You guys in particular, or just like the world, or...
Just everywhere. I mean, the way we're approaching this. I mean, do you have any insight as to something that you'd want to see different or change?
I really, honestly, I have to say this, because it's like one of those things, like, when you work for a company, right, you're very much put in a box. And so we're very much all about we're all about our titles, right? And so those titles, like, keep each and every one of us different and separate, which we're not separate. So if we could just open up our minds and just like remember what the bigger picture is, and the bigger picture is to spread love and hope and teach people tools to get them to a further place. And if we're saying like, oh, I can only help you this far because of insurance, or if I can only help you this far because of this, that, and the other bullshit story that we tell ourselves, right? That really bothers me, because I actually work for God. I work for the people. I work for, us as a collective. And it's like, if we're gonna stay stuck that way, if we're gonna keep putting these labels on each other and saying you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, and this, that, and that's bad and that's good, if we could just release judgment and open up the boundaries, not the boundaries, but open up just open up a little bit more. For instance, I worked for Danvers Detox, right? And so as I'm going through that, I'm also doing the recovery coaching, and then I come back and I'm back in Danvers Detox, and I tell this guy, I'm like, hey, so when you get out, I'm a recovery coach. Like, if you need help further, if you don't go for further treatment and you get out there and you don't know what to do, reach out to me. The nurse goes, oh no, you can't do that because that's this, that, and the other. And I said, I don't work for one place. I work for the, what's the bigger picture here? And so I really just, number one, like, the labels and that kind of thing, I think, is what's keeping us really stuck. And and whether it be like it's within the community, it's the whole debate whether you're clean, you're not clean, Subox, and this, that, the other. Who gives a shit? It's it's literally like to each his own. And if they're being honest with themselves, right, that's up to them. If they're being honest with themselves, then great. Then do what's best for you and don't worry about the people. But it's all about being honest and doing what's best for you and not care. Like, this shouldn't be judgment. It's just
sounds like almost like it's the industry needs to change the way that they see somebody who needs to get well. It's not compartmentalizing everything. You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that based on what your insurance will cover and stuff, but actually seeing them as a human being and helping them get well. No, that's great. And that's
like, see past it. See past all of this. See past the insurance. See past it. Like, what is the goal? The goal is these are human beings that are struggling, right? Oh, you don't have insurance, so you can't go here. You don't have this, so you can't go there. And it's like, we just got to come together and collaborate more. And I said this to Maureen. I got this thing, and it's like togetherness. It's loud and clear. It's like, if we keep with these labels and this crap and this, we're all separate people trying to do the same thing. Like, come together, for God's sakes.
Well, hopefully they're listening. Come together.
I hope so, because like when I show up to these things, I'm showing up like in honor of my loved ones who have passed and all the things that I have experienced, and so like I'm passionate about this because my loved ones suffered. They suffered hard, and then there was so much judgment, so they didn't get help, and they stayed stuck, and they. It's just, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, if we just all drop down our wall a little bit more, love people where they're at, stop judging, love yourself first, right? Because judgment comes from within. They're judging because they're afraid of something. So it's all about us doing our own work and putting love back into us.
Yeah, I agree.
That's great, Bonnie. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being on and sharing all about this. As I said before, it was very nice to learn. And I always like to know about the different things. And I know our listeners do too. But thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure. I'll make sure that we have your information up in the show notes. So if anybody does want to contact you or connect with you or ask questions, they can go on your website or join you on Facebook. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much. And I pray for the best for everybody. And thank you so much for having me.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
Bonnie. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Talk to you guys soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.